Welcome to the Idaho Business Podcast, the only Idaho podcast focused on providing profits for Idaho people. If you love our state and love small business, you are in the right place. We interview local legends, learn business, and have way too much fun doing it. You're listening to the Idaho Business Podcast with your friend, host, and all-around great guy and owner of New Clean Commercial Cleaning, Spencer Ward.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Idaho Business Podcast. I'm excited to be here today. Hope you guys are excited for a new week, new opportunity to go out and advance your skills, advance your opportunities, opportunities to bless others in your life, and maybe those that aren't in your life right now. But let's go forward. As always, we're sponsored by Health West. These guys, great group of people, great medical group. Give them a holler, give them a Google, find out where they're closest to you, and see what they can do for you and your family. Recently, as of last week, and I'm recording this last week from you listening to it when you are, I was asked by the Pocatello Chubbuck Chamber Leadership Group to come speak to them, present to them. I don't know why. I'm sure they regretted it afterwards, but they did. And they asked me to speak on balanced decision making. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to turn down an opportunity. I'm not going to say no. Maybe I just watched Yes Man. I'm not sure. But I said, yes, let's do this thing. So I gave the presentation and I thought, you know what? Why don't I just share that with the podcast today too? Honestly, just like I told them, I don't know if I've ever made a balanced decision in my life, but the way I make decisions is pretty dang simple. As you probably know, I'm a pretty simple dude, but if you're listening to the podcast today, I'm going to show a little PowerPoint. If it's not necessary for you to look at it, I'm going to review it. But if you're watching it, you're going to see something different today. So let's go after it, huh? Okay. So balanced decision making. All right, let's get after it. The way I really make decisions is based off of my core values. We've talked about this. I've talked about this, and I've talked about this until I'm blue in the face, pretty much, right? Okay. It's, my core values is exactly how I make my decisions, how I, they're my do's and my don'ts, and how I navigate my life. But for what I'm operating with in my businesses and my life is be honest, work together, make money, and have fun. Now, certainty is built by clarity, and clarity comes from knowing your core values. And these are the things I'm telling you. And if you're just coming onto my podcast right now, you're thinking core values. What is he talking about? Well, go back some episodes and talk, and you can learn about how you can put your core values together. But I'm honestly telling you, it's very simple. This is how I make decisions. It's very cut and dry. This is my do's and don'ts. So let's go forward. I'm going to tell you a story, just like I told them, that I don't even think my own mother knows. So if Pam Ward, my mom, is listening to this podcast today, I apologize that I never told you the story, but it was for your own good. But in 2004 to 2006, I was serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Harare, Zimbabwe mission. Now, this mission, took up 3 different countries: Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi. But the story took place right in the guts of Harare, Zimbabwe, the capital city of Zimbabwe. So I started my mission in Zimbabwe, and in the middle of my mission, I came back to Zimbabwe from Zambia. And during this time, well, let's step back a bit. Zimbabwe used to be called the breadbasket of Africa. Everyone wanted to be there. It was just thriving. I think at the time it was number 3 in the world for exporting maize corn. And I believe number 2 in the world for wheat. And this was in the 70s and 80s. Low 80s, early 80s. And this was ran by the English government. And then they got their independence, and they elected a prime minister named Robert Mugabe. And this guy was no saint. Pretty much overnight, he stripped the white farmers in Zimbabwe of their land and gave it to natives in Zimbabwe who didn't know how to farm, didn't know how to run a business, and divided up the farms. So even if they did know how to farm, they didn't have the acreage to really push product. So their country fell into economic collapse and turmoil. So what was first known as the breadbasket of Africa, everyone wanted to go there, everyone wanted to be there. And you could tell, technologically, these guys were advanced. As you're walking around, me being there in 2004, thinking, holy smokes, the technology they had there, you could tell it was old, but what they had in the 80s and 70s, like, wow, they had money. They had some stuff going on here. But during this time, when I was there in 2004, they would give us a living stipend to live off of every 2 weeks, and we would save up our own money to go on these missions, and then they would give us partial bits and pieces of this money to live on every 2 weeks. And when we got there, it was 217 Zimbabwe dollars, so 217,000 Zimbabwe dollars every 2 weeks. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I want to say the exchange rate was like 5,000 to 1, $1 to 5,000 Zimbabwe dollars at the time. And to put that into comparison for you, I remember buying a pizza there, a decent sized pizza for $17,000. It's Zimbabwe dollars, of course. But when I left in 2006, and this was happening in 2005 as well, they were really going through some huge hyperinflation. You see on the screen, if you're not seeing on the screen, I'll tell you about it. You see I've got a picture of a $1,000 note and a $100 trillion note. And the $1,000 note I was able to buy when I first got there, like a bottle of soda, like a bottle of Coke, boom, 1,000 to 1,500. And when I left, that 1,000, like, people were literally using that as toilet paper because it was cheaper to use that as toilet paper than to actually buy toilet paper. That same pizza I bought for $17,000 in the beginning, 2004, in 2006, cost $2 million. No, excuse me, 800,000. But $2 million, it was what I was receiving every 2 weeks compared to 217,000 every 2 weeks from 2 years prior. So their biggest note at that time, before I wasn't there when they released this $100 trillion note, but I was there when they released a $50,000 note. But when I was first there, it was just a $20,000 note. But during this time, that note wouldn't even buy a loaf of bread, their biggest note. So yeah, we're seeing inflation now, but guys, hyperinflation was scary. You go into and I'm getting to my story, and I'm getting to what I'm talking about here in a second, but I want to set the scene properly here. You go into a store on a Monday, and the shelves would be full. Kind of like almost like a pseudo COVID period when it happened. You'd see supplies, and then you go back on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and not just the toilet paper and the basic commodities were gone, but everything was gone. Like, you wouldn't see anything on these shelves except for like some soy meat in a can. It was just, so, which I ended up living on some soy meat and some noodles and some ketchup and some beans I found on the road for a couple of weeks. So that's a story for another time. Anyways, let's move forward. So during this time, there were 6 of us living in this house, 6 missionaries. And we were locked in this house for 6 weeks because it was during the political election time that they were trying to get Mugabe out. And there was 2 political parties there. And obviously they thought these white guys, and obviously we had some Native companions as well, wonderful people, wonderful men and women. They thought we were part of the opposition party there to try to overthrow Mugabe. or they were thinking we were part of the CIA. So many times we'd get pulled over on a daily basis, brought out of our cars, and, weapons held to us as well. So looking for American money and other things. Again, another story for another time. So one night, as we were being locked in this home, we couldn't go anywhere. We had to have people come pick us up to go get groceries and come right back, because it was just turmoil in the streets and everywhere. Because some people wanted Mugabe to stay, a lot of people wanted him to go. There was a group of loyalists, Mugabe loyalists, that jumped our fence. They're armed with machetes, bats, anything they could get, they were armed with. And we had wooden doors, on our home. And then we had a metal gate that swung over these wooden doors. And they proceeded to go on either side of on the home, and they were trying to hack down that wooden door. And they were trying to get through that wooden door. Then they could create enough space to get to the lock mechanism on our gate, break the lock off, gain access to our house, and then proceed to just kill the opposition party that was within the home. So obviously, not the most stress-free time in my life or the 5 other elders in this home at the time. So what happened at that point is, we knelt down. Of course, we said a quick prayer, and we decided, what? We're not going to just wait for these people to gain access to our home, corner us in our home, and just kill us. This is not how we go out. So we all decided, hey, the best action to take at this point is to go arm ourselves with whatever we had at the time, which wasn't much, some kitchen knives. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, nothing is being made up here. And we're thinking, okay, we gotta defend ourselves. We gotta try to get these guys out of our property, or we're just not going to go down like this. So we decided, what, let's go out this front door. And on the count of 3, we all opened up and we went out just screaming and yelling, and just we were just like wild men. And luckily for us, this group was frightened off, probably because they saw a bunch of crazy white dudes screaming at the top of their lungs. But they jumped our fence and they didn't return. Now, after that night, I decided, taking action was how I wanted to live my life, even if that action or initial attempts weren't perfect or completely thought through. I also realized the importance of, surrounding myself with people with similar values. That was very, very important. Now I'm going to show you another picture of my goofy mug while I was in Africa. You can tell this man was not, I was, I'm still, obviously, I'm immature, I'm childish, but this night really changed me. So this was a pivotal point for me in my life at this time. So if you're listening to this podcast, I'm showing a picture of me playing with some lions, kind of teenager age lions, having some fun. So, like I just said, I like to take action now, even though, if the initial attempts aren't perfect, I still like to take action. In my presentation, I played some of these videos. I'm not going to play them now, but they're literally videos of my initial attempts of creating some content for marketing, for hiring efforts, and they're bad. They're not good. So if you've seen me on this podcast, people, some episodes are decent and some are probably bad. Especially me at the beginning. You look at episode 1 compared to now. Yeah, hopefully I'm slightly better, but I know number 1 was not good. I know Messina Price was amazing because she's always fantastic, but Spencer Ward was not. But at the time, I didn't really care. Like, I wanted to just get out there, take action, and create some content and do something. So don't be afraid to start. Anything is better than nothing. This version leads to a more polished product, service, or outcome. So crappy version number 1. That's what I'm talking about. Don't be afraid of crappy version number 101, get it done. If it's something you're like, I've never done this before. I've never written a piece of content for an ad, or a piece of copywriting, marketing for, a sales funnel. Give it a try. Or if that's, or hire it out to someone who, and then work with that person to speak in your voice. But try something, guys and gals. One of my friends, Tracy Thompson, said, one of her quotes was, "Indecision is worse than any decision." And that, for me, it's huge. And I can't stand just to stand idly by. Honestly, guys, I blame social media many times for paralyzing us to act. And we have this false narrative and this story in our heads that keeps us from making decisions. Most of our decisions aren't between life and death, but many times it can feel that way. There's so many things that you tell yourself, because I say the same things to me. I'm too busy. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. My physical or mental limitations are keeping me from blank. I just got done reading David Goggins' book. What was it called? Never Finished. In that book, he described his upbringing. In his upbringing, he was raised in a very poor Black community with a father who beat him and his mother pretty much on a daily basis. He was born with a heart defect and other health issues. So as he got older, he had all the excuses in the world to not accomplish anything in his life. More than, many of us. He had all the excuses not to do anything in his life because he's like, wow, I have X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C. Why I shouldn't be able to do the things in this world. But then he decided, you know what? This is not going to be me. I'm not going to believe the voices in my head. He actually started to record the voices in his head. And one of my coaches now, he calls it the inner, B word voice. And I love that, because that's what it is. That's what it is, people. It's a voice that's in your head, the adversary telling you you're not good enough. He's trying to keep you down. He's trying to make you wait, trying to keep you from, following your dreams and to meeting your expectations or the things that you can achieve in this world. So he started recording them, literally his voice recording them and then playing back to himself, thinking. And as he recorded them, and as he listened back to him, he would think, who is this loser talking back to me? And why would I let this person decide who I'm going to become? Because this is ridiculous. This voice is ridiculous. And so many times in our lives, we're letting that voice control everything. But if we literally verbally said the things that we're thinking out loud, it is unbelievably ridiculous. I think that's something I'm going to start doing, because we all have good days. We all have bad, and we always should obviously try not to get too high and obviously try not to get too low, but try to keep, that even flow by not listening to that voice. Again, I switched the screen for those that aren't listening, watching. I'm talking about crappy continued here. I was a senior and junior intermediate intern for the Simplot Games while I was in college. They came to me, the lead people for the Simplot Games media team, and they said, you know what, Spence, well, it'd be a good thing. We would love for you to start a YouTube channel and interview guest Olympians and these Simplot Game athletes on this YouTube channel. Record it, post it, make it happen. And I'm thinking, I've never done anything like this. That's going to be incredibly uncomfortable for me. And I'm not good at public speaking. I'm not very smart. That's not going to be something that I'm going to be accomplished very easy. But I said, whatever, let's do it. Nothing's going to be as hard as what I just accomplished or took action on in Africa just a few short years prior to this interaction with Simplot Games. And you can see a screenshot of me interviewing Olympian Jim Ryan. He's one of the few, I think one of the first actually, to run a sub 4-minute mile, which is unbelievable. And then you see me holding my hands like Ricky Bobby. So of course I have to slide Ricky Bobby a GIF in there. I'm not sure what to do with my hands, but why be afraid of making decisions based off of what people may think of you? You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. You're not, at the end of the day, you're not bringing your paycheck home to them. You're not bringing your accomplishments to them. You're doing it for, those beautiful little girls and boys that you have at home. You're doing it for that beautiful spouse that you have at home. You're doing it for those, beautiful significant other that you have at home, or you're doing it for the potential significant other or potential children you have at home, or you have other reasons. Otherwise, you're doing it, but you're not doing it for, I've got to make sure the people that aren't taking chances approve of everything I do. Forget them. So let's go forward, guys. Now, brings us to don't should or shouldn't on yourself. After we've taken action, after we've made these decisions, don't shouldn't yourself. Instead, say, I chose to do this. I choose to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So don't shouldn't yourself. It sounds like something funny, but keep that in your mind. That's the last thing you should do after making a decision. Stand by your decision, confidently knowing that, hey, just because I made a decision doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect. I'm not going to make every decision perfectly, but I can have certainty that these decisions I'm making are going to, better the objectives of what I'm trying to achieve. So just have certainty. Changing your story. If it's hard for you to get gain some ground right now on where you're at, try making decisions in a way that's in the way someone in the life you want would make decisions. So find someone who you just admire, and think, I don't have the bravery right now or the ability, to do this right now. But you know what? I'm going to make a decision how so and so would do it because I really admire them. If that's how it needs to begin for you, and that's how you take some power, do it that way. Become that person that attracts better outcomes. It really is, guys. I really believe that there's a frequency that we can put ourselves on that you can attract more positivity to your life and better outcomes just by the way you're living, the way you're thinking, and seeking out ability to show and to share gratitude and to helping others as well. And then being certain in yourself doesn't mean you won't make mistakes, like we covered. I just also read Tim Grover's Relentless book. In that book, he quoted, "Confidence means recognizing something isn't working and having the flexibility and knowledge to make adjustments. Cockiness is the inability to admit when something isn't working and repeating the same mistake over and over again because you stubbornly can't admit you're wrong." So obviously cockiness and the definition of insanity are very similar, correct? But knowing that, hey, you know what, I'm going to make decisions. I'm still going to be wrong at times, but at least I'm making decisions. That's the big step, guys. You can't just think, I can't make decisions. What if I'm wrong? What if something happens? Guys, gals, make a decision. as long as you're working towards something to better your life or to help your team or to help your family, who cares? If these are worthwhile decisions and goals you're trying to achieve, even if you make a decision, you're like, you know what? I was a little off on that, but I've learned now. I'm going to do it this way and this way going forward. Great. You've learned something awesome. You've bettered yourself. You've learned from that experience, and you're going to dominate this upcoming round. The way I do things with my staff is I always say, use our core values. Use our core values to make decisions. And if it doesn't go the way that you thought it was going to go, or we thought it was going to go the following day, let's just sit down and talk, but we'll never be upset, because if you showed us that you've made a decision that didn't go against our core values, not every decision is going to be like, I had so much fun making that decision. That was one of our core values. But as long as it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I was completely dishonest when I made that decision, and I didn't work together with my team, these are decisions that you don't make, because you have to make decisions that are going in line with your core values. But again, even if we would make that decision differently, we would sit down with that teammate and say, you know what, I like what you did here and here, but let's maybe try it this way and tweaking this going forward with that same decision. So, next slide, coming to the end, this sweet release of this podcast for you all that are thinking, is this guy ever going to come to the end? Well, I'm about to right now. One of my good buddies and coaches, Mike Campion, said a few years ago, and it's always stuck in my mind: often wrong, never in doubt. And I know I did a podcast on this a while back, but it rings so much truer when we're trying to make decisions, knowing that, I'm going to have the confidence to make these decisions, knowing that I may be wrong at times, but I'm not going to doubt the decisions I make. And I'm not going to feel bad about the decisions I make. Own up to it. I chose to do that. I choose to do this, but I'm not going to should myself anymore. So guys and gals, it's honestly how I make decisions. Pretty simple. I try to do that. I'm not perfect at it. There's times I still screw up. There's times I don't take action, and I kick myself. And there's times I should have. I still do that to myself. I say I should have done that, and I have to catch myself. No, I chose to sit in my car when I should have met that person. So then I have to think, okay, give myself some grace. But next time, if I was feeling a little weak or a little apprehensive, I'll tell myself, that next opportunity, I'm not going to let it pass me by. It's going to happen. So going forward, guys, I hope you all get something out of this podcast. But as always, go out there, be happy, be grateful, serve others, and take action. Find that opportunity in your life, to take action, and surround yourself with others that share the same values. One thing I did not say that I should have. If you're around these people that are constantly saying, oh, and they're judgy, oh, why'd you do that? That was a dumb decision. Why'd you sell your company? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that with your company? And they don't own companies, or they're not in a position of leadership, or they're not whatever. Why in the crap are you friends with these people? Why are you giving the time of day to these people? Don't. I hope I don't feel too preachy this episode, but geez, you guys deserve so much better. To surround yourself with positive people that want to share the same values as you, want to push you in positive ways, not to freaking grab your shirt and tug you back down to where they want to be, because they don't want to take themselves out of the comfort zone. So go out there, serve others, take action, be grateful, and be happy. Till next time, go kick some butt and be happy. See ya.
Congratulations on spending a couple of minutes getting a little bit smarter, having some fun, and supporting the Idaho business community. If you're feeling the love, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you are.